If you have one of these with you, will you please turn it to silent so we don't have phones ringing during the meeting? And if you will join us for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if anybody does want to address the board today, if you'll fill out one of the forms in the back by the sign-in sheet and hand it to one of these two gentlemen at this end of the permit. Call to order. Our district attorney from the Spears is here. Supervisor Tinkle is present. Supervisor Banks is present. Supervisor Feinberg is present. Supervisor Guy is running late. He just came in the door.
You're cute.
He's present. Supervisor Flaherty is present, and our district manager for Shoemaker is here. And our CPA from Infomark is here, Stephen Bloom.
Thank you.
We'll let Mr. Guy get settled, and then we'll start with hearing people that have signed up to speak.
Our first speaker today is Sharon DeRosiers, Devonshire Lakes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Boardwalk at Gateway is a proposed development by an unnamed company to be built at the corner of Gateway Boulevard and Griffin Drive. At an informational meeting in 2018, this company was represented by people from the engineering firm Hole Montes. At that time, the proposal was for 7 four-story buildings housing 336 rental units. They assured everyone present that there was sufficient space and it was all permitted use. They claimed there would be no encroachment on the wetlands or the preserve at the rear of the property. The proposal was not well received, as many felt the project was too big and deviated too drastically from the character of the surrounding developments. Subsequent discussions, research, and articles in the Gateway Sun brought out figures that seemed to support the claim that the density of the proposal was indeed far over any number that had been written into the original Gateway documents. The items that residents brought up concerning the height of the proposed buildings, the number of units, and the number of cars that would be involved are certainly causes for action to require the developer to scale down the project. As I began to research the project, I discovered that soon after the above referenced town meeting, a proposal went to the Army Corps of Engineers petitioning to fill in part of the wetlands at the rear of the site, a part of the preserve. This is a complete reversal of what was assured at the meeting. I also found reference to a change in the plans to increase the number of units from 336 to 380 in 14 buildings, another significant change. As I still have not found the name of the developer, I have no way of asking what their proposal currently entails. Development is a given for this site. However, any development should be one that fits in, not one that will dwarf and detract from the surrounding low-rise residential communities. The impact of upwards of 1,000 new residents on water, sewerage, infrastructure, as well as the traffic with potentially more than 600 additional cars at an already congested site is significant. It's okay, I'll get it later. Any development should be done by a reputable company that is straightforward and honest. When building within an existing community, a developer should work with the district supervisors and the residents surrounding the site. They should bring forward a project that will be a welcome addition to Gateway, not one that will bring a host of problems, as well as set precedents for any future plans. So I'm asking you, the Gateway District Supervisors, what have you found out about this project? Do you know who the developer is? Has the request to the Army Corps concerning the filling in of wetlands been approved? Is the developer going to the hearing examiner before the county commission meeting? How will you represent us? Will you find out where we can get the answers to these questions? I was one of 3 residents who spoke at the county commissioners meeting before the vote on the roundabouts. They were very polite, but 3 voices were not enough to sway them. You know that this project is far too dense, too high, and will be a precedent we should not set. You must help us to organize a strong front to insist the scale be reduced and make this boardwalk an asset, not a liability to Gateway. So I ask you again, who is the developer? Has the request to the Army Corps concerning the filling in of wetlands been approved? Is the developer going to the hearing examiner before the county commission? When and where and how can we make our concerns known to the zoning board and the county commissioners? And lastly, will you hold this developer to the standards and requirements that all other developers of residential communities in Gateway have previously met? Thank you.
Chris, do you have any idea if they have to go to the hearing examiner on that?
That I don't know. We are in contact with the county commission office and the hearing, as I understand it right now. It's basically in litigation, and they're trying to move the project forward that way. We are on the Corps of Engineers notification list. I talked to them last month, and nothing is being done.
We can't hear
Speak-
anything that's
speak up.
happening. We can't hear a thing.
Speak up, please.
We're in touch with the Corps and also the Board of County Commissioners office, and nothing's been rescheduled for either hearing. The Corps is still reviewing the permit with wildlife impacts and wetland impacts. We have put in a request for a public hearing. So when the Corps makes their recommendation, at that time they'll schedule a hearing. Mr. Brand's also on that notification list. So nothing has moved on it as far as scheduling any public hearing or anything with the Corps permit. And it's not unusual, because anything that goes to the Corps is typically will disappear for a year.
Well, the year's fast approaching.
And I'll get you a copy of the
I
letter
would
that
appreciate
we
that.
sent to them that has the case number and file number on it.
Right, because when I tried to approach them by email, they sent back and said that the plan numbers that I had were not valid for anything that they were looking at, so I don't know where to get that kind of information.
I'll get it to you after the meeting.
I appreciate that.
And if you leave before I do, I'll email it to you.
Thank you.
And also, I hate to say it, but your time's up.
Okay, well, I didn't get answers about who the developer is or
Yeah,
who
I
anything.
still
That
got-
doesn't
I
even
wanted to
know.
ask-
Yeah, I got some
You know who
questions.
the developer is?
We have one name, and then they changed the name of the project, so I could look on the legal filings, but off the top, no, I don't. They had a LLC, and then that changed, the name of the developer changed from the original. So I assume they're just moving the financing around, the company that's doing it.
Did you hear anything from the zoning board?
No, they haven't rescheduled
Haven't rescheduled.
any hearings. And I'll apologize for the sound system, but we do have a vendor coming in Monday. It's going to replace all the microphones, and instead of it picking up from over there, it'll be broadcasting from here and also from the individual
We have
mics.
one more.
So,
Go ahead.
And just so you know, there was a question asked at that apartment meeting, who was the developer, and they did not answer it.
That's it to me, if you're gonna be a reputable developer, you should be willing to put your name on something. But when I went to the county commission and
That
spoke,
might have answered your question.
I'm sorry.
That might have answered your question.
Uh,
They aren't reputable.
Well,
The question I got is for Chris. This is the first I had heard this. I heard the same thing at the meeting, that the wetland and the pond wasn't going to be touched.
Yeah.
They're now going in. Do we have veto power over that?
well, what we basically have is we can contest the permit. We've done that through filing a letter of objection. I work with Tony on that, and we're on their list for notification, and I check regularly, but there's been no movement out of the Corps, and we highlighted the impact to our drainage system.
Additionally, there's an easement in favor of the district that the first set of plans that I saw, which was a while back, indicated they wanted to engage in some fill activities in the district easement. That requires district approval for that to occur. And we also have to approve their stormwater plan, that we have a permit criteria manual. I think one point of clarification, though, the district does not have any zoning or permitting powers. As I say, the district has the ability to become involved on matters that affect district infrastructure and facilities, such as its water, sewer utility, drainage, easements, those kind of matters.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand, how they don't have to come to you, because other communities, when they were built, and even us, I built an infill into Devonshire, we had to satisfy all kinds of
They had to come
requirements
to
for.
us.
Pardon me?
They have to come to us.
Not for the
To get
zoning approval, not for
No.
building approval or site plan.
No, I don't
but
understand
for
that.
others.
Chris, to the extent we can we put Corps of Engineers on notice that we are going to be vehemently opposed to any attempt to reduce either the wetland and/or the ponds?
We've already done that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and-
we are on record. Okay.
And again, they can't impact our property, our easement rights without our approval. A permitting agency does not have that authority to do that. We would have to vacate or allow.
So that sounds like that's our ace more than anything else.
Unless they move out of our
Yeah.
easement.
Yeah.
So we have to keep on top of it, that's why I'm hoping this will, I just have two other things. One of our members calls Dirk Daly, I think his name is, regularly to find out where this project is when it's going to the county. And in reading the stuff from her and from Gateway Sun, it seems that if they go directly to the county commissioners with their proposal, it'll be like the roundabouts. There will be nobody here. It's supposed to be on June 18th. It's potentially on the June 18th agenda. And nobody will be here to speak. And so I read some more, and there's another way that they can go to a hearing examiner. I don't understand how that's different from anything. But if they go to the hearing examiner first, and nobody shows up at the hearing examiner's meeting to vocalize any thoughts, when they do go to the commission, you can't speak then.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I'm afraid they're gonna like circumvent everything that we try to do in terms, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I have strong feelings about what goes there.
We feel
Yeah.
that way.
What
Yes.
activity-
Yeah. But we need, I don't know, on the
Times are-
website or something for you people to keep us informed so that we can show the district or show the county commissioners that we do have desires and wishes that need to be addressed, need to be incorporated.
And less size.
Thank you.
Thank
Less.
you.
Yeah, thank you all for listening, I appreciate it. And thank you for the answers, and I will look for your,
I'll get it to you today. Next, Eric Rosen.
do you need my email address?
I already have it.
Oh, sorry, he can't.
Mr. Rosen, and I have, he sent some correspondence in, and I put a copy by each of the board members' desk.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me a few minutes to talk about the dog park, which I've been talking about for a number of years. Lately, there's been a feeling that the park is becoming unsafe. Viewers, it attracts viewers of who look at existing signage, internet search engines such as Google, and they feel they can utilize the park as there are no stated restrictions until they come right up to the gate. And by that time, they're already, raring to go and to get in the park, and it puts a lot of pressure on the people that are on the inside that are registrants. Many transients and soccer families feel they're entitled to use the park, and they quiz us quite often about letting them in, and we say, unfortunately, you can't, but there are some people that do, and I'll address that in a minute. And if they're not allowed in, they can be, many times, some are submissive and just leave, but some get very aggressive, very vocal, and almost threatening. And it becomes an issue, and these could be people from the soccer, it could be people from just coming in thinking it's a dog park they can go to. And the problem is, by the time they find out they can't get into the park, they're at the gate of the park. And I'll address that in a minute. A few personal experiences I'd like to share. In one, I did have an aggressive situation with a soccer dad. He sent his daughter around to ask if she could come in with a little dog. And we said, you need to have a pass. She went back and the father said, you made my daughter cry, I'm really upset, and he went on and on and on. And I just mentioned, if you read the sign, you'd see that there are certain restrictions to come in. But what happened was, someone on the small dog side let him in anyway. So it defeated the purpose, and I'll get to that in a minute. And again, I think that the days when the soccer people are coming in, those big trucks, sometimes they're coming in pretty fast, and there's no one to monitor them and it becomes an unsafe situation as they're cutting a corner going in, and dogs are walking to the park. So I think that's certainly something to be concerned about. And then there was one, and I had, you probably heard about the pit bull incident. I was there and I tried to get one of the dogs off of, which I couldn't, the grip was so hard. But I watched the whole thing, and the guy came in a broken down Winnebago, because he probably saw it was a dog park, didn't say anything else. And the next thing you know, 3 pit bulls are coming out, he couldn't control them, and Ed, who's a member, registrant, and his dog Benjamin were coming out, and they just jumped him. And Ed fell on the dog, and it was just horrific. And finally it got broken up, and the guy took off. Of course, Ed had injuries, and the guy, we got his license plate and everything. The other disappointing thing was the fire came immediately and helped out, but the animal rescue and the police never came. And that was a 911 call, and it was pretty, feeling of like, what do we have to do, to get some protection. So there are just instances where it just feels at times that it's a little more unsafe than it used to be. And I think part of it is because there's no defined definition of what the park really is and who can use it. Couple of other things, the locks and gates, the large dog park gate, and I sent Chris a note. I watched a guy come and just lift up the gate and go in. I gotta tell you, I know who it was a member, and it was very disappointing to see someone do that. But other people come in and they work at it, and the soccer players work at it, and other people trying to get in, and they're really not very strong. I mean, you could break in pretty easily. So I think something needs to be done to reinforce them. And I had mentioned to Chris at one time about putting maybe a larger metal plate so people couldn't grab in and get around to keep it safe. And the other thing, the last thing I want to talk about before I have some recommendations, we were told over a year ago that the small dog park was going to be rehabbed like the large dog park. We heard funds were available and then they weren't available. I think it's very unfair that it's been a long time, so a couple of years, and that field needs to be done like the large dog field. And, so that it's pretty, it gets pretty testy with all the little things growing there and stuff, and doesn't always get mowed. And so it's not the same as the other park, which they did a nice job of putting a nice surface on. With the exception, if I could say, I don't know who put shells on the thing, but many of the dogs are afraid of getting their paws cut because of the shells there. Maybe that could be changed to some less caustic kind of material, like a rubberized thing or pebbles.
Mr. Rosen, I could ask you to wrap it up.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap up. My recommendations: large signage at the entrance of the fields. Dog park sign to include either private or by registration only. That beautiful sign at the beginning, if it just said below it, by private or whatever it is, would stop people from, I think, coming in. The large sign by the dog park states that the same private. So in other words, the dog park parking, there's one sign for dog park parking out of the whole thing. And I think there needs to be more signs allotted with signs of dog parking. And also the putting another sign there, just again, a reminder that it is by registration only or it's private, something to that effect. And that can be done in the soccer area. I think a letter to soccer area parents just to let them know that they just can't come into it's not something that they can just come into, and in fairness to them, they don't know. Because by the time they get to it, it's right at the entrance to the park. Hopefully it'll fix the gates to be a little more stable, repair them as the sod. Another thing, it would be to put cameras in the dog park, because I think it would do two things. Number one, you could see and be able to see some of the good things that are going on and the interaction with dogs, and also to see some of the people maybe that are trying to get in, so it might be something to at least for better protection. I think that's it, and I would ask you to take a look and talk to the staff and maybe come up with some thoughts. Does anyone have any comment?
You say they identified the vehicle of the person that had the pit bulls?
Yes, I took the license plate down and gave it to.
Do we have it? Do we have it?
We have all that information.
What action are
We
we
have a
taking as
video.
far as trespassing? Just send them a notice that they're trespassing.
Yeah, it's an out-of-state plate.
It was Michigan.
There's a lot of out-of-state plates in Florida for 6 months of the year.
Yeah.
They probably live down the street.
Yeah.
I still say go after them and send them a notice of trespassing. You're not gonna stop this if you don't.
What
They're
about
just
the
gonna
other
look at it and
people?
say that dog ain't got teeth.
And what about the other people that just try and come in and jimmy it or whatever? What do we do? I mean, we're
Well, the
sitting
people on the
inside.
inside aren't helping the situation by
Yeah.
letting them on the outside.
I agree,
That's
I agree.
not I don't think it'd be a bad idea, but us getting to the soccer people, we don't know who they are and have a roll call. Maybe what we want to do is get to the owner of the soccer league and let him make the distribution that dogs, unless they are registrants, don't bring them here.
Yeah, and I think that would work. I mean, at least they'd be known, they'd know it, and they'd understand it, because a lot of times they get upset because they don't even know the rules, and they say, why can't I come in? So they just want to do that. But anyway, those are some of the things, and I know Chris passed it out. Hope you'll look at it and maybe take some action on some areas to, I think the recommendations can help the safety and enjoyment of using the park. And people who do use it really love to use it, so thank you.
Thank you.
And Chris, let's just get some pricing, because I was thinking about this, because I'm out at the soccer park every week. There's the fence mesh that you see around like tennis courts and things of that nature. Having a barrier around
The windshield?
yeah, it's like a windshield, would do two things. One, I think it provides some privacy, so if you just can't look right in and engage, you know, could be nice. And then two, actually having an entrance gate prior to the two entrances to the dog park, so that way you got basically a two-tiered system. And I think going up to the fence saying, hey, I have my dog, can you let me in? Well, if there's a mesh gate and you can't see, or a mesh fencing, so you can't see in there and it's not easy to engage, and if there's a gate on the outside, which I don't think would be that expensive, just a chain link fence and another access, again, separates what would be considered maybe public use during league times and what would be private outside for the dog park. I don't think those are two very expensive solutions, but just some ideas that could possibly help,
Maybe putting a camera right at the entrance of each park, where they have to register, you would see who goes in.
Yeah, the cameras are expensive and you have to monitor those. I'm not against them, but we've talked about putting
Electricity.
cameras throughout, it just becomes really expensive, but it could be a possibility.
The next speaker, Warren Davy.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this few minutes. It will be 2 minutes, Madam Chairman. The manager's report had lists several items that he's going to discuss later on, most of them on the high-end level. He has a lot of big things there. Under the recreation, the third topic, he talks about a bocce ball court at a cost of over $18,000 to be put here at the soccer fields. Of course, it's always questionable if it would be needed. We have a bocce court at Stony Brook, used extremely limitedly. It's back there, the deputy goes there. But if you go to, I believe, the golf club, they have someone that apparently sets up leagues and stuff, and they have tournaments going on of bocce ball, which is very popular. But it goes one way or the other. I believe putting it here at the soccer fields, I think would address some of the problems that we've talked about the dog park, more people coming down, and for $18,000 we need to protect that field. My feeling is that if the board is going to do this, have they considered who's going to oversee the courts? Should there be a large number of people using it, who would have priority? Will the CDD produce or provide bocce balls? And if so, where will they be able to pick them up at to use them if they're here? Bocce balls cost, according to Amazon, somewhere between $30 and $50 a set. So they are a little on the expensive side to have, but then to have someone issuing them and getting them back in is another situation. And our staff here at this building is already overworked. They've got a lot of things going on, and every time the board comes up with a new idea, it all ends up down in the administration or in the other areas that they have to take care of. I would suggest, even though, now I will say, even though they're going to hopefully get the money back from the Lee County Recreation Fund or whatever, I'd recommend that if we're set on having a recreational area, perhaps we need to find out what kind of recreation the Gateway residents want. Now, right now, bocce ball is an issue. I don't know how many people come to ask about bocce ball, but I know in our place, pickleball is becoming very popular. So what's the board going to do if someone comes out and says, hey, we want you to put a couple pickleball courts in? Or what about horseshoes? Or what about a tennis court? One court or two, not the stadium we had designed before. So I would suggest that if we're going to do this, we need to do it right, cover everybody. My suggestion would be that we go to the pool area, determine what people want, install it there around the pool area, where we have someone, a staff member there all the time that the pool's open, which is pretty much dawn to dusk. So that would give someone right there, you'd have to elevate some people to do that. I think that'd be a better idea than spending $18,000 to put it down here with no supervision around it, because for $18,000, they're gonna be pretty nice courts. And I hate to see them get tore up just because they're here and there's nobody here to watch them. Thank you.
We're gonna put you in charge of the bocce balls.
Hey, whatever.
Organize a league.
The last speaker we have that signed up is Sally Black Barron, Ashbrook Court. Barron, how are you?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
No.
No? What am I doing wrong?
Speak up.
Project. That's it? Okay, I'll speak loud. Good afternoon, Chairman Feinberg and board members. My name is Sally Black Barron, and I'm here today on behalf of a number of property owners that have already signed a petition concerning the recent action that was approved by your staff and carried out from April 17th to April 22nd on Lake 3 in Hampton Park. The signed petition will be submitted to you at your May 16th meeting. We're looking at this specifically at the workshop, and I passed out the copy of what I'm reading to you here today. Before I start, I would just like to say that there was a 300 foot part of a bank across from myself and my neighbors on one side that was completely stripped down to the dirt, and was very beautiful before that and functional. And it happened over 4 days, and nobody was aware of it, and it was very dramatic and stressful for people. People were angry. I have surveyed a number of people. Some are on the border of wanting to sign the petition, but they're not sure that they really like the littorals, and I'm not talking so much about the spike grass, the actual kind of spiky plants that have flowers. I never knew about a littoral before, like 2 weeks ago. So anyway, and there have been, I would say, one that was adamantly against you know, they were against the littorals, was glad to see that it had happened. But other than the other ones that are on the fence that are just still trying to get a handle on this, it's been resounding, similar feedback. So I will read from what we talked about to what they have signed on the petition. We've undersigned concerned property owners who reside on Lake 3 in Hampton Park wish to convey our following concerns to the GSCDD board and staff. 1, we strongly oppose the decision and recent action taken by your staff to spray, kill, and completely remove all of the littorals and spikebrush grass next to and on the bank shelf, leaving only bare dirt and rocks on Lake 3. This is your tiniest lake, I'm sure, in the whole system.
What road is that off of? Just like
Between Ashbrook
Kentwood and Ashbrook, it's going between. Yeah, so it just really was an eyesore. It could even be, you know, possibly devalue our homes, but I'm gonna continue reading it just exactly as it is, the petition, so I'll continue. It's an eyesore. This was done on approximately 300 foot strip of the bank, leaving the soil completely denuded and primed for erosion, which will likely happen in a month when the impending hurricane season comes and the torrential rains. 2, District Manager Chris Shoemaker's written response to me dated April 22nd, 2019 was, and I quote, "The removal of the ban behind the 5 homes was done at the request of the homeowners." End quote. We, the property owners, would like to be advised about why this action was taken solely at the behest of only 5 property owners, which could set a negative precedent in the future. Also, why was there no public notification in regard to the wishes or concern of the much larger number of property owners whom also reside on Lake 3? 3, furthermore, we agree that there are areas on Lake 3 that need the littorals and the spikebrush grass to be trimmed back or thinned within the standards. However, we do not support the nuclear option of all-out removal of these important plants from the shelf of the bank, of the Lake 3, or any other lake in Hampton Park. They serve an environmental purpose to minimize bank erosion, algae collection, and reduction and filter the water. They also maintain the beauty of Lake 3 as it existed for some years now. This action, in our opinion, was a huge waste of crucial funds that could have been applied to thinning, not killing the plants, or scraping the bank to raw sand and dirt. Thank you. And if you have any questions, but first I'd like to say that I personally will be submitting my own individual written comments and concerns along with correspondence which I have received from Mr. Stockholm in regard to the decision-making process for this severe action. Thank you for your attention and interest in this matter.
Did you author the petition?
Did I what?
Did you author the petition?
With a group of people, yes, after feedback from our neighbors.
Did you and were you made available a copy of the development order for Hampton Park?
I have not seen that. Chris has been really great about sending me a whole lot of things, and you may have already done that, did you? I think I
Hard
asked
copies
them.
are waiting for you.
Yeah, the hard copies are waiting.
Before you get a bunch of people stirred up, you need to get the development order and see that what staff did is in 100% full compliance with the development order. Right now, I walked that pond 3 today, and in fact, I looked at every pond in Hampton Park. And what was approved by the county and accepted by this board on takeover is nothing like what is out there right now. The littorals are way beyond what was approved and what we agreed to on the takeover, and we pay for it. Right now, the littorals are to be at about 25% of the shoreline, with the exception of the 300 feet that was knocked out in an area that they weren't supposed to be there in the first place. We're going to be paying, we, the CDD and all the residents in this community, are going to be paying for something that is not required and is excessive. It doesn't need to be done. I would like to have staff go out, just so that everybody understands the dollar value of what we're talking about. My guess in talking with two firms that do it, just for Hampton Park, to maintain the littorals to what needs to be done with the permit, not what's there now, we're looking at $250,000. The residents of Gateway are not going to pick up the tab for the luxury of a few.
Well, I agree, but you did do this on behalf of 5 homeowners.
At their request, because
And who
it's.
pays for that? All of us.
it-
Or are
that is
they
true.
paying
They should-
individually
It
for it?
should have been, I won't argue with you on that.
Mhm.
It should have been that our vendor that does our aquatic work, his contract should have included the development order such that he would have known those had to come out in the first place and not be maintained. The fact is, that didn't happen. And the issues were now going back. But the problem we've got is we got 13 other ponds in Hampton Park. Thank God ponds 11, 12, 13, and 14 aren't overgrown yet. They're
No,
not even close.
they're not.
But
Ours
the
is.
other 10 ponds are, and it is way beyond what was in the permit and what we offered to take over and maintain.
I have a
So-
question for you, just along that line. I cannot understand a maintenance contract. Everything was maintained when I went there, when I moved in. And I look directly at this eyesore right now. I'm devastated by it. And I don't understand why in our maintenance agreement, there was nothing put in there to thin or cut back any littorals from the time you guys took it over to now, which might have negated the problem of them growing so fast.
Well, I think it goes even worse than that. We retained, I guess, for a period of what, Chris, 9 months? We retained Lennar's vendor. So
And they didn't do
it was a
anything, right?
continuation. What he did, what he didn't do, I don't know. Alls I know is that in the past year, the number of littorals, and these things will spread. They'll spread drastically. I just want to make sure the residents of Hampton Park are totally aware of what the conditions of the development orders say. Are you aware, for example, that from the control elevation, the width of the littoral zone is 4 feet, not 25 and 30 feet as shown out there on
We would
the,
love
as
it
you
to
can
be
see.
4 feet.
If you're going to have a littoral, it needs to be maintained between the control elevation and a depth of 1 foot, which on a 4-to-1 slope is 4 feet. If it's 6-to-1, it's 6 feet.
We
That's
don't
it.
want, yeah, we don't
That's it.
want 20 feet of them. We're concerned that it's overgrowing and in our tiny lake, that it's just gonna close in all the way to where the shelf is.
And my concern is, as one who's gonna put this in the budget, this cost is going to be outlandish to get these ponds back to what they were originally approved on the development order.
Okay, well, I have one more question, and thank you if I can just say this one last thing. I have sat there since the CDD has taken over, and I have watched your maintenance crew put littorals in continually. And even as late as a couple of months ago, they came and they put littorals in again, but nobody trims or takes back. Why are you keeping adding the littorals?
You caught me by surprise. I was not aware that our vendor was putting in littorals. Chris, is that correct?
I'd have to check on that.
I'm not aware.
I have
The
pictures
reason-
of them.
the reason I
putting
question
them.
it-
my way, right?
I wanted
I'm
to,
not-
they
I'm
wouldn't
not
give
saying
it
you're
to
right or
me.
wrong.
Just
What
put it
I'm
in
saying
the
is,
wrong
the reason I question it is, they'd be charging us for it. Because that costs money. Each one of those little littoral plants, whether it's in a little pot, which is about $1, $1.50 each, or if it's what they call just bare root, 50 cents. They're gonna charge us for that. But if they're putting them in, I would wanna know, that one, our staff knows about it, and two, more importantly, I hope that they're putting them in where they are to be approved on the development order. Going out there and putting them around the pond is absolutely ridiculous.
They were being put in, it happened right after the hurricane, and it happened again, like I'd say maybe 5 months ago. And they
If it
come
happened-
in,
if it
they
happened
have
after
a
the
crew putting
hurricane-
them in, and everybody's wondering, why are they putting them in? We have too
If
many.
it happened after the hurricane, that was before, I believe, we took over. And the vendor, the deparent, which was when our WCI, had the responsibility of doing it before we accepted it. So it's a little bit different. Then again,
But 6
after we
months
brought
ago-
in Lee County Development Order and Carol Liss, she went around and went back and told Lennar to put even more in to be compliant. But in no case were any of those that were put in, because I sit there and watched that. They put them in where they were supposed to be. What has happened is they spread. But if what you're saying is true, and our vendor, or one of our vendors, is out placing these right now, one, who authorized it, but two, more importantly, is who's watching it to see that they're doing it correctly. Today, when I was out there, I saw something, I saw pickerel weed, and I saw canna, the yellow and the purple plants. I'd never seen those before. Now, I don't know if they were planted and they were late coming up or what. The ones I saw were in the right spot, and they were at the east and the, let's say, what are we, east and west ends of Pond 3, which is where they should have been. Those are acceptable. But if somebody's out there doing work and incurring costs for us, I think
I
we
think you
might
want
want to check with
it.
our
I
vendor.
think the last time we saw them was about 5 months ago, and you were in charge then, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it hasn't
check
just
to see
happened.
about
When exactly did you take it over?
Seems like it's what, June? June of a year ago? June, July, somewhere in that
Uh-huh.
area.
Yeah, it's very serious, and I think everybody is, all of us agree that they need to be cut back, but we don't want to see them.
I just want to make sure that before this thing blows up, because I get the next door, I see it all the time. Make sure everybody out there that's signing that petition, before they sign the petition, knows what the order says. I don't think you're going to get the signatures on a document indicating they want us to do something that is not in accordance with the development order. I don't think, I don't want my name on a petition like that.
Of thinning them, that's, you're not allowed to do
Removing,
that?
we are to maintain them and thin them within the littoral shelf
But why are they?
and the zones. Not, we don't have to do it in those other spots,
But
which is where they
But
were
there's no
removed.
thinning going on.
Well, I'm not gonna argue with that.
Yeah.
To me, the maintenance is, I hate to use an adjective in front of it, but something poor. They look horrible.
Yeah.
That
and
whole Hampton Park today looked horrible.
It does, and there are a lot of people,
No.
I think, that are gonna try to come, this is.
There's lots of us in the audience that disagree with your comments, Ed.
Yeah, a 3 o'clock
I'm
meeting
going
is
to-
difficult for people.
You're full
The
of
point is,
shit.
just
Thank
make sure
you,
everybody
Ms.
knows what that order says.
Thank you for that information. We have a person on our block that I think has included information about the DO, so, and you may have too, so I'll look that up. I appreciate you letting me take on this.
So
And we will be discussing this in a workshop.
the DO can be changed.
Um, Mr. Shea.
That's all the speakers that we have.
Moving right along.
District manager report.
I really just had a couple things on here for informational purposes, considering our state revolving loan funds and construction amendments. And these have previously been approved by the board, and the chairperson's authorized to sign them. They're just amendments to existing agreements. And also, next Thursday, we'll be having an assessment methodology workshop meeting. And there's a notice in front of the board on that. Mr. Meyer will be here to talk about the assessment methodology used by the board that was originally established about 25 years ago and hasn't been changed since. So he'll be bringing his findings and making a presentation. And we'll also be talking about a stormwater utility at that meeting. And that's an open workshop for the board for discussion. There will be time for public opinion also. But that will have some impacts in the future on how properties are assessed for operation and maintenance costs in the district. And the notice was published in the paper, and we also sent it out to all the property owners, associations, and also the management companies. And another thing we finished and we'll bring out, we're doing assessments on the 3 roadways that the district's looking at taking over for paving purposes. And we we've finished getting the information on the roadways themselves, and we're working on assessing the streetlights, and we bring that back at a later meeting.
Chris, and the methodology meeting, is the body of the work going to be available to read before the meeting?
Yeah, it'll be presented and then put out there. It's really just
But
an
it's had to be-
informational meeting.
we
If
can't
you'd like,
get it early
I'll
to read it and be
If you'd
ready.
like, I'll get you a copy of it. I've sent one over to Pelican previously.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Putting in some additional seating, sunshades for the dog park. We have looked at that gate that was brought up about reinforcing that. We also get patrons at the pool, even though they have pool cards, when they go up there, they yank up on the gate instead of using their card, and we're having to repair that gate right now because of that behavior.
Hey, Chris, with the pool and the dog park, can we track the amount of times that a key is used?
Yes.
We track volume?
Yes.
I know you had sent me, I think, pool stuff before. Can you also send out the dog park summaries?
Numbers that we have. And also I put a letter from a resident about the parking lot at the fun park and additional costs for staff and safety. We'll be reviewing that at a later meeting. We'll have to look at whether the board will designate my resolution. It'll be on the next agenda to tow from that facility. Right now, we have installed a gate there, but we aren't locking it. We don't have staff there to lay out the dust. And also, we probably need a sheriff detail for the first few weeks that we do that. It's similar to getting people to leave the soccer fields at night when they try to close them at 8. People are still out there and they just don't want to leave. So we'll have some discussion about that, about whether we're going to leave those hours open or later. But that will require some staff time and some public safety time. Bocce ball court, working with a consultant on courts, and they'll have a proposal to us next week. Synthetic surface.
And that's all, that's 100% impact fee.
100% impact fee, and also we talked about asking the residents what they wanted. In the next few weeks, we'll be sending out our water consumer confidence report, and also a survey, and residents can input on that.
Just the one that we had on our table.
Yes, sir. And we're gonna mail the survey out. We're also gonna put it up on the website with the Survey Monkey. So we'll come back and be able to tell you what the residents' preferences are from that survey for recreational facilities.
And just to kind of speak quickly to Warren's point, I think an amenity like bocce ball, we would just provide the court, not, at this point, I don't think we have any plans to have any other management or supply equipment. So that was kind of the.
We
my
don't
opinion.
supply basketballs for the basketball courts.
Right.
And we're also